Welcome to Forward Focus. In each episode, we're helping you take one step toward becoming an effective, well-rounded leader. I'm your host, Jon Reusch, and in today's episode, we're actually highlighting the book Good to Great by Jim Collins, and specifically something called the Hedgehog Concept. Jim Collins wrote a book. He's written several books. If you haven't checked him out as a leadership author, and he's a thought leader in leadership development as well. If you haven't checked him out, please carve out some time in your life and business to do so. One of the books that he wrote, Good to Great, is looking at different businesses, different companies, some that excelled and were able to become great, long-lasting companies, and other companies that just were good. They never maybe hit their fullest potential. One of the concepts that he highlights in the book that really helps us understand, like, how can I go from good to great, is called the Hedgehog Concept. And if you're sitting back wondering, well, Jon, what does that have to do with leadership development? I'd encourage you to just ask Jim Collins. But in all sincerity, I'm going to do my best today to explain what he was talking about with that concept. If you haven't heard of the Greek parable around the fox and the hedgehog, there's an essay written about it from Isaiah Berlin. And the line that sort of was the foundation for this concept was this following line. The fox knows many things, but the hedgehog knows one big thing, right? So if you think about a fox, foxes are sly, they're cunning. If they can find an easy prey or target, they will, right? And so they're always on the lookout for that. Well, what the book talks about is that a hedgehog does one thing really, really well, and that's defend itself. That's protect itself. And so what Jim does a really nice job of in the book is he identifies three key areas that any entrepreneur or business leader can look at to identify, am I following the hedgehog concept, right? So without further ado, I want to dive right into this. And what I want to say too, before we dive into the actual content, whether you're a self-employed self-starter with it's just yourself as your business owner and employee, right? Your staff meetings are me, myself, and I, or you're running a medium-sized company or even a larger company, this concept is really good as a fundamental foundation for you to think about, where am I heading the next year, 3 years, and 5 years. I think COVID-19 has a lot of folks thinking about the direction in which their businesses are heading. Are they needing to change industry or change the way they deliver? Think about restaurants for just a second. For restaurants to continually bring in patrons and for them to spend money, there were some restaurants that prior to COVID-19, they weren't doing contactless delivery, contactless payments. They were just like that scratch kitchen that had a 2-hour wait every night, right? And people would spend their time and wait in crowded waiting rooms or put their name in for that experience. Well, today those restaurants have needed to pivot, or there's a high likelihood that they're not going to be successful in years to come with what the pandemic has taught us and how we're running a business. So that's like a really timely example of how the hedgehog concept can apply, which we're going to dive into now. So there's three simple components, right? So if you're following along and you're able to write or take notes, I would highly encourage that you make a list 1, 2, and 3, because later on we're going to make a little diagram below that that will be helpful for you. So first and foremost, what you want to ask yourself is, what are you deeply passionate about? What stirs the soul? Jim Collins' belief is that you can never be a great company or business unless you're in the game of something that you're super passionate about. We're going to talk about that a little bit more in a minute. Number 2, what drives your economic model? What's your economic engine? So if you're thinking about running a business, obviously the ultimate goal of running that business is to be able to provide for your family, provide for yourself, and make a profit, right? So if you're not getting into a space where you're driving an economic result, you're not following the hedgehog concept at the highest level. And then number 3, what can you be best in the world at? What is something that you can work toward or become best in the world at? So let's dive a little bit into these three areas, right? As the questions. So the first and foremost, when we're thinking passion, right? I don't know about you, but when I think about the word passion, I close my eyes and I just visualize energy. I visualize somebody just totally in their element. It invokes fulfillment, right? It invokes that positive aura or energy. You should be excited, right? One of the things that comes to mind is what a mentor a while ago told me. You should be so passionate about what you're doing that when you get up in the morning, the floor rumbles when your feet hit the floor, right? And so if you're not in that space right now today, that's not necessarily saying that what you're doing isn't correct. Again, it's just saying that you're not subscribing to the Hedgehog concept of being the greatest that you possibly can be. So there's some things that we're going to sketch out in a moment around how to explore those passions and discover if you need to make a change in what you're doing every day to be passionate. Number two, when we're talking about that economic engine, right? So let's dive deeper into what that really means. What does that look like? Well, first and foremost, I want you to think about active versus passive income, right? So active income is I'm spending time, and if you're being paid per hour, for example, for every hour that I work, I'm paid $12 an hour. Or if I'm making a salary for every month I work, I make $5,000, right? And so you have this idea of active income versus passive income could be I've purchased a property, I've gotten it prepared and set up, and then I manage a tenant and I'm the landlord and I'm renting that out, and every month they pay their rent. That's more passive income, right? I might spend 5 active hours on it a month, but the rest of the time, that would be passive income that's happening, right? Especially if I hire somebody to just manage it for me. Now that's truly passive income. I'm not stopping by the property, checking it out. I'm not cutting the grass. You get the idea. So I just wanted to mention that because every business has different levels of active versus passive income. Typically, your self-starters or smaller companies are much more active. And as they become larger organizations, you have marketing agreements, you have joint ventures that are set up where there's some passive revenue coming in to help offset some of the expenses that the business might be incurring. Anyways, back to the economic engine itself, you want to think about it's market driven, right? So does the market tell you that what you're doing is absolutely necessary? When I think back to a personal experience with real estate, if I'm running a real estate company like I am at Keller Williams Lakeside, and we're not taking any new listings and we're not closing any homes, but we offer the best real estate services on the planet, is that really market driven? Is the market telling me that I should be in real estate, right? So thankfully at Keller Williams Lakeside, we are absolutely doing a great job in that arena, and agents are taking listings every single day. We're having record months right now in our closings, but that's an example of if the market's not saying we want to list homes with you, we need to really take a hard look at how can I run a profitable business without the business that I need to do so. Keep in mind, Amazon doesn't ship you things in 2 days for free, right? They have a benchmark. You know that they are looking at how many subscribers do they need to make another revenue stream, another profit on their services, right? So in your business, for example, if you're a photographer and you're like, John, I'm super busy, I'm doing a ton of shoots, I'm booked all the time, but you're only making 5% or you're giving free services left and right, that's just not a wise use of your economic responsibility as a business leader, right? So think about your target metrics, set a profit goal. Think about how much you want to be making, and keep in mind, of course, taxes and other aspects that come into that economic piece. And remember, you can't improve what you don't measure. So start with a goal and then look at that consistently to see, are you working toward that goal or are you still missing the mark? So if you're following along so far, we have something that we're passionate about, we get excited about, it's something that fulfills us. We have an economic indicator, right? We have revenue coming in. We have staples of what that can look like. And then the final piece of this hedgehog concept what can we be best at? What is something that we can be better at than everybody else? What's our one thing? The way that we can identify if we're playing in the right space with this is, first and foremost, are people seeking us out for it? Are you getting requests, messages? Are people coming to you as a thought leader on that topic? Another way to look at it is, have you invested the time to become an expert in that area, right? So I don't care how good you are with doing sutures or fixing an injury that I may have. I want to know that you have your medical license, and I want to know that you're certified and in good standing. And I probably also want to know, if you're going to be doing my surgery, that this isn't your very first surgery. Or if it is one of your earlier surgeries, there's someone there next to you guiding, helping, mentoring, right? That's why you have residencies, and that's why you have an attending doctor, right, in hospitals. So the idea of, is the market driving those expectations? That's a really big deal. You can be the best popsicle salesman in Alaska, but if you're not selling any popsicles, then it's just a self-proclaimed statistic that really isn't warranted or driven in any examples that make any real tangible sense, right? So is the market driving that? Are they asking for that? If the market is driving it, the second piece about being the best at, you're outperforming your competitors. So I'll give you a really easy example. If you're selling cell phones, right? And you're getting clients coming through the door on a never-ending basis, and every quarter you're looking at the sales reports for how many cell phones were sold in your area, and you're outperforming your competitor 3-1 in cell phone sales, that would be an appropriate example of, okay, the market is validating that they are the best cell phone store in this example. They're outperforming their competitor 3-1. What are they doing at such a high level to be selling 3 phones to everyone else's 1? Right? That would validate them being the best cell phone sales. So in short, results are the way that we can say we are validated or we are the best in that given area, right? Passion, economic, validated at being the best. So let's talk a little bit about, now that we know the 3 fundamental areas that we want to focus on, right? How can we look at that fundamentally as a business leader today in 2020 as we're thinking about absolutely dominating over the next 5, 10, 15, maybe even 20 years? Well, first and foremost, if you understand that your business or enterprise needs these 3 things, you have to get your team around you to understand that as well. So don't settle. You don't want to be looking for people that are just going to be yes men or women. You want to look for people that understand where you're heading. They understand that you have the passion, the economic opportunity, and you want to be the best in this given area. And they will run through fire for you, with you, alongside you, linked arm in arm to get to that end result, right? Because here's the thing. Ask yourself this question. If you want to be a great enterprise or business, and you want to be a great leader aspiring toward that, by hiring just good employees, will you be able to get there? The answer is obviously no. So keep in mind, anytime you're adding somebody to your organization or your company, it's allowing you to remain in the lane of what you're best at, what you're passionate about, and what drives, economic growth of your company. So let me give 3 specific examples that are all different, but tie into these 3 concepts within the Hedgehog Concept, okay? Number 1, best at. Keep in mind, it's things that validate that you're the best at. Your market's going to dictate this, right? So at Keller Williams, consistently for over a decade, ranked number 1 in training and development by Training Magazine, right? So 125 companies are looked at consistently, year in, year out, a top-rated company in Keller Williams for training. So much so that the Training Magazine made the Training Hall of Fame and put Keller Williams there so they couldn't continue to take first place every single year. So that validates that Keller Williams, if I want to get trained, I'm going to go there and get trained or develop to launch my real estate career or business. So think about in your business, whether it's a landscaping company or accounting or maybe you are an influencer in social media, what's a way that you can validate that you are the best at what you do? In other words, do you have 2 or 3 quick statements, statistics, or facts that show you're the best? Let's give an example on the economic engine, right? Over the last 10 years, decade or so, and especially over the last year going through 2020, technology has consistently and continually sped up the way in which we do business, sped up the way in which we live our lives. It's made us more integrated, yet at times more disconnected. So I want to highlight a couple businesses that have absolutely capitalized on making technology their economic engine. So think back 10 years ago, if I wanted to go to the store and look for fuzzy slippers, I would walk up and down the aisle of Target or Kohl's or Walmart, and I would find a pair of slippers and I would try them on, and I would wait for my fit that I liked, and I would eventually buy slippers. And then 2 months later, I would have to go and buy a slipper cleaner to maintain and protect those slippers, right? And that was essentially how we lived. And people for the longest time said, you're never going to buy clothes online because if it doesn't fit, then you're going to have to return it, and it's going to be too difficult to make that happen. The consumer won't do it. Flash forward to today. If I am on Google and I Google slippers, right? Just to go with that same example, and it pops up on an Amazon link and I click it, and I'm looking through all my slippers and I decide to buy fuzzy slippers. And then at the last minute, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait on this for a day and decide. So I throw it in my cart, and the next morning I'm looking through Facebook or Instagram, and what do I see? Ads for slippers, right? And they're everywhere. And they're just hitting me from every direction. Until finally I get, maybe that evening, I get an email that says $3 off your slippers if you buy before midnight. And so I'm like, oh, that's awesome. So I go in there and I purchase it for $3 off. And right before I hit finish, it says, please consider this before purchasing. Slipper cleaner, for example, or a shelf that goes in my closet to store my slippers perfectly. Anyways, it's kind of funny when I keep saying slippers, but the point is there, right? Technology, artificial intelligence specifically, looking at my searches, looking at my search history and my payment transaction history, has pivoted me away from going to Target to buy those slippers and completely online. And this is what I would argue that like Google and Facebook and Apple and Amazon are absolutely, not only are they the best at what they're doing, but it's driving their economic engine. They are generating a profit from that activity, right? So they would fall into that hedgehog concept. And then lastly, an example on passion. See, here at Forward Focused, my passion is to develop well-rounded leaders. As I was coming up through my different businesses and experiences, I didn't have a one-stop shop, one-spot platform that I could go to get all of my resources that I needed for leadership development to run a successful business at my fingertips. I didn't have it. I would be going, to John Maxwell for this or Craig Rochelle for that. Great thought leaders, great leadership development pieces. Yet it wasn't like real time, the link right below, here's the document, here's what you need, right? If you've spent any time on Forward Focused website, getforwardfocused.com, you 100% know that you can go there for resources, for tools, for things to put into your business right now today. That's what I'm passionate about. I want people to develop into their peak personal and professional selves. I want people to be able to make the impact that they want on others and develop leaders for the future. One of my taglines, it might sound great in a podcast, but be the leader you wished you'd had and that you deserve to be. These are things that I'm passionate about. And if I didn't have the economic part, or if I didn't have the validation of thousands of people I've worked with, it definitely wouldn't be in the Hedgehog Concept. And I would even argue that Forward Focused isn't in the Hedgehog Concept yet today, but it's what I'm aspiring toward. So to every entrepreneur out there, every leader out there that knows that they are making a difference one day at a time, keep it up, because I'm doing the same exact thing at Forward Focused. I'm a small business owner, has a small staff, and I'm looking to make a big impact. And the way that we're doing that is we're pouring every single episode, every topic into something that you want to hear about, into something that I know can help make a difference because it's made a difference in my businesses to this point. So as we kind of land this plane, I wanted to revisit one final piece to think about. You can't be the best at something until you put the work in. Day in and day out, trial and error, failing forward. It's okay. But learn from those mistakes. I really hope today was of value to you. I hope we're able to sit back as leaders and think about, what am I passionate about? What can I be the best at? And what can drive economic success? I encourage you to really think about your business and what takes you to that next level in terms of making an impact. What are you passionate about? Whatever that passion is behind what you're delivering, think about how that can be at the centerfold of your mission, your vision, your value statements, that the moment somebody walks through your door or goes to your website or reaches out to you, they can see what you're passionate about as the owner, operator, and CEO or leader of your business. It resonates with the Steve Jobs quote that, how do I know that I want to continue to do what I'm doing? Well, when I look in the mirror every morning before I head out the door and I ask myself, do I enjoy what I'm doing? Do I enjoy what's on my schedule for the day? Well, that answer becomes no more often than yes. It's time for me to go find something else. If you found value in today's content, please be sure to subscribe so you never miss a lesson to be the leader you deserve to be. Until next time, lead on.